poor, they give gifts.
They box the poor. Oh. All right, on page 150. And we were talking about the neshama and the guf, the body and the soul, the interaction between the body and the soul. We said the major purpose of the soul is to sanctify the body. When a person, through his life, does mitzvos, learns Torah, his soul gets holier and holier, and that will cause his body to be sanctified. And that's going to happen really at the resurrection of the dead. When the soul is placed back into the body, that's when the soul is going to sanctify the body like that. So we're in the middle of discussing that topic. So we're on Ayin Aleph, which is page 150 in the bilingual edition. Amr Haneshama, the soul says, Matzanu to'elis shleimus laguf. We find the very important purpose which happens to the body. It becomes the body will become complete through the soul. Uzachus l'neshama, and that's a merit to the soul. Avalot to'elis shleimus l'neshama. But how does the soul acquire perfection? Amr HaSeichel, so responds the intellect. We're going to talk about this, God willing. However, first, let's finish what we were already discussing. This cleansing of the body and purification of the body, that's the main purpose of the soul in this world. And after this, it has other things that it does. But now we're not going to talk about that right now. And on this topic it says in the Zohar, Rabbi Chia said, Tachazi, go and see, when the body is in this world, it is lacking perfection. After a person is a righteous man and he goes in the ways of righteousness, the ways of the uprightness, and he dies in his uprightness, Nikra Sara Betashlumo. It's called that he finished. It's called that he is Sara, like the matriarch, in his completeness. Ad kan l'shono. Okay, interesting Zohar. Let's see what that means. V'hine, zeh kol pri tzidkasa. This is all of the fruits of his righteousness. Iloi kvodo shel makom baruchu. That it causes we are glorifying God's name by doing this. Hamis'ala b'shleimus b'riusav. That Hashem, so to speak, that His glory becomes revealed when His creations do this. Shehakol bara l'chvodo, because everything was created for God's glory. V'zeh kol asher yivaldu min ha'maisa hatov kalpei mala. Asher alkei nikvalo schar milamala. Ki kenachas ruach she'asa l'fanav yizbarach ken ya'asalo. So when a person lives his whole life as a righteous person, that, so to say, makes a nachas ruach above, that Hashem is, so to say, pleased with His creations, and we honor His creations, and the glory of God is increased when a person acts in a righteous way. So therefore, Hashem repays us with reward for giving Him, so to say, that nachas ruach, that pleasing ruach, so to say. Okay. Now, so we're saying so far that a person's job in this world is to be righteous his whole life, and we saw this Zohar that says that when a person if he goes in his whole life in a righteous way, and then he dies in his righteousness, nikra Sara b'tashlumo. He's called Sara in his completeness. And we said the purpose of the soul, when a person does these righteous deeds, that will purify the body. Now, something we've discussed before is the general history of mankind and the history of the world. How's everything going to go? So there is, first, the world that we find ourselves in now, called Olam Hazeh. And before the year 6000, Mashiach comes, and that's when the world recognizes that God is one. Then after that, after Mashiach comes, the dead are resurrected and the soul returns to the body. In the meantime, the people who have died thus far are not in Olam Haba. They're in what we call Olam HaNeshamas, the world of souls, or referred to as Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. And that's where the souls, the people that died, everyone from Adam until, from Moshe Feinstein, that's where their souls are now, in the Olam HaNeshamas. When after Mashiach comes, is going to be a resurrection of the dead, and that's when the souls are going to return to their bodies. And after that, the world is going to be recreated in a more spiritual form. So now, knowing that information, let's continue to see what the Ramchal says. Achet Gorim, the sin caused, Chet Shel Adam Rishon, meaning which sin? The first sin of Adam Rishon, that he ate from the Eitz Hadas. La'avor Kos Hamisa Al Kol Hanevraim. The fact that Adam sinned, that caused that the cup of death was spilled on all of creation. Veinik mikvah, and there's no hope. Al Kain, meaning everybody has to die. Every human being has to die. After Adam sinned, there's no hope. Every human being has to die. Al Kain lo ta'atzar koach haneshama la'asos hazika chazek kodem hamisa. V'zehu inyan hatzadikim shemeisu be'etir shel nachash. K'mamarim zal shel yochel hishtalim afilu barov maseim below zeh. So what that means is that we're saying the soul has the purpose of purifying the body, but once Adam sinned, the soul is not able to purify the body until a person dies. Okay, and that's what it refers to, that there are certain people, there's a Gemara, you just quoted in Bava Basra, that there were certain righteous people that the only reason they died was because of the sin of the snake. I mean, if it wasn't because of the sin of the snake, they never sinned in their lives, pretty much, and they didn't deserve to die. But since that death was decreed on all of humanity, even these righteous people were included in this gezerah. But after a person goes into the dirt of the ground, kishahaya, v'zuama shehitol nachash b'chava, in the zuama, this spiritual impurity, this bad spiritual force that was placed in humanity because of the serpent. Paska mimenu l'gamrei. When a person dies, that zuhama, that impurity that was placed in him or her because of the snake, that ends. It's totally gone. As kishiyashav yibane, but when a person comes back and is rebuilt, meaning at tchiyas hamesim, with the resurrection of the dead, tered bo haneshama b'chol taikef ma'aseh hatovim v'zivor yalion. Then the soul returns to the body in all of its strength, and with all of its good deeds, and the light of the light above. Shene'enis mimena began Eden kfi ma'aseh, that it benefited from in Gan Eden according to its deeds. V'tar ba begufa, then it will shine in the body, or gadol, a tremendous light, shebo yizdakech legamrei, that will purify it totally. V'shav v'rafa lo mikol haros, and it will become healed of all the evils. Asher na'aseh alu lahem b'rishayna, which it was easy for it to become trapped with in originally. The Indian Zen is Parish Medrash Hanelam. This is explained in a hidden Medrash, Parshas Vayera, V'zelashon, it says, Amar Rabbi Levi, Haneshama ba'oda b'ma'lasa, Nizonis ba'or shamalo. The soul, when it's in its high level, it gets sustenance from the light above, Umislabeshes bo, when it's clothed in it, L'shetikanes laguf la'asad lavo. And then, in the world to come, when it goes back into the body, Ba'osa or mamish tikanes, it goes back in with that light. Ayin Sham, look over there. V'od Sham, it says also over there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ma'al hagufa t'chos ara ad misrakev kula. Hashem has the body be in the ground until it totally rots. V'naf kimina kol zu mabisha. Ayin Sham. And then all of this terrible spiritual impurity is removed from it. So the way it works is that the soul really is this holy thing, but it doesn't have the power to purify the body to the extent necessary, meaning it sounds like some holy people that it will purify the body, and you could even see it on their face, but it won't totally purify the body while a person is still in this world because of the sin of Adam. Because of the sin of Adam, that means all of humanity had this zuhama, this negative spiritual force, this tumma, impurity in them, and that impurity, that tumma, only exits a person when he dies. That's the only way to get it out. And after that, when the soul comes back, then there's nothing preventing the soul from totally purifying the body. And it sounds like the soul, based on the deeds that a person does in this world, Olam Haza now, that the soul can go on a higher and higher level. Right? Not everybody's the same in how close their soul is and what they do. So when the person in their soul does mitzvos and studies Torah, he's going to get rewarded in Gan Eden. That's where souls are now, in Olam Hanashamas. And then he's saying his soul will be sustained from the high light and being close to Hashem. And then it sounds like from here that the soul gets a higher spiritual level in Olam Hanashamas. It gets its reward. And then when the soul gets back into the body and the zuama, the spiritual impurity, is gone, then the soul will totally transform the body. And that's what we said in Olam Haba. The way the Ramchal and the Mikubalim learn Olam Haba, the next world, where we really get our reward, that's when the soul goes into the body. It's actually going to transform the body to some sort of spiritual element, and not like it is now. But first, the person has to die to get rid of that zuama and to get rid of that original impurity that was placed because of Adam. Let's just do one more paragraph. V'hinei biyadenu ata inyan avodas ha'adam ve'inyan kibul schar. Now we've discussed, we have in our hands the topic of the service that a person has to do and his reward. Right, Olam Haba, where we are now, that's when we work. We do mitzvahs, we study Torah, and Olam Haba is when we get our reward. Hem shtei hazmanim. These are two periods. Hakolim kol mitziuso. That includes all of creation. Ki ata ba'olam haza hinei haguf gas v'chashuch. In this world, the body is thick, filled with darkness. Balach esronos, has many imperfections. V'yesh l'neshama lahagbir lov he'ara v'kedusha. And the soul has to overpower it to become holy and to get holiness and to get this divine light, to purify it. And when this purification is finished, that's the time we get reward. Because together they will get reward all of the days. That's something that the Ramchal said before. Right? Sometimes we think that, only the soul will get reward because that's the main part of a person. But the Ramchal says, no, that wouldn't be fair. Since a person's body and soul was in this world serving Hashem, so also the body and the soul has to get rewarded. We also tend to think, before we saw the Ramchal, it sounds like, there's Olam Haza, which is this world, and Olam Haba exists simultaneously, that there's some spiritual world that exists simultaneously where a person gets their reward. But that's not the main Olam Haba. What we're learning now is that it's actually two time periods in the same world. Where it's this world that we're in now, right now, it's Olam Haza, this world, where it's a physical world, where we have imperfections and things like that. The world is going to be transformed into the spiritual world, which is called Olam Haba. That's where we're going to get our main reward. Even though now there is a simultaneous form of spiritual existence called Gan Eden or Olam HaNeshamas, and that's where the souls who have already passed on live now. And their bodies, the fact that their bodies are in the ground, that removes all of this spiritual impurity that was placed because of the sin of Adam. Okay.
Is that only your opinion? Because we always